Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we follow in the footsteps of the great souls, history of the universe, and we sit together and we hear the glories of the absolute truth, purpose of human life. Tato Brahma Jigyasa, to search after the absolute truth. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam is consistently, systematically designed to expand our consciousness step by step until we can actually not only understand the absolute truth, but eventually meet him face to face in the pages of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So welcome you all to this journey. We have Fernando, a new guest. First time today. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome. And all of you out in cyberspace, we welcome you also. Welcome, arms. And first of all, we're going to read that we always read, glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam by a great soul who's one of the greatest teachers in our line of succession, our spiritual authorities. Every day it's the same thing, right? And it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Man Nishtadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my savior, my source of ecstasy, I bow unto you. Sadhu Sadhuta Dayin Atini Chochata Kara Hanamunchakadachin Mam Premnarit Gandayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 All right, we've just heard how the Haryashvas understood the instructions of Narada Muni. And now we're going to find out how Daksha, the father of the Haryashvas, reacted when Narada went to him and told him what happened to his sons. Canto 6, Chapter 5, Text 23. The Haryashvas, the sons of Prajapati Daksha, were very well behaved, cultured sons, but unfortunately, because of the instructions of Narada Muni, they deviated from the order of their father. When Daksha heard this news, which was brought to him by Narada Muni, he began to lament although he was the father of such good sons, he had lost them all. Certainly, this was lamentable. Purport. The Haryashvas, the sons of Prajapati Daksha, were certainly well behaved, learned, and advanced, and in accordance with the order of their father, they went to perform austerities to beget good sons for their family. But Narada Muni took advantage of their good behavior and culture to properly direct them not to be involved with this material world, but to use their culture and knowledge to end their material affairs. The Haryashvas abided by the order of Narada Muni, but when news of this was brought to Prajapati Daksha, the Prajapati, instead of being happy with the actions of Narada Muni, was extremely sorrowful. Similarly, we are trying to bring as many young men as possible to the Krishna consciousness movement for their ultimate benefit, but the parents of the young men joining this movement, being very sorry, are lamenting and making counter-propaganda. Of course, Prajapati Daksha did not make propaganda against Narada Muni, but later, as we shall see, Daksha cursed Narada Muni for his benevolent activities. This is the way of materialistic life. A materialistic father and mother want to engage their sons in begetting children, striving for improved economic conditions and rotting in materialistic life. They are not unhappy when their children become spoiled, unless useless citizens, but they lament when they join the Krishna consciousness movement to achieve the ultimate goal of life. This animosity between parents and the Krishna consciousness movement has existed since time immemorial. Even Narada Muni was condemned, not to speak of others. Nevertheless, Narada Muni never gives up his mission. To deliver as many souls as possible, he continues playing his musical instrument and vibrating the transcendental sound. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 24. When Prajapati Daksha was lamenting for his lost children, Lord Brahma pacified him with instructions, and thereafter Daksha begot 1,000 more children in the womb of his wife Panchajani. This time his sons were known as the Savalashvas. Purport. Prajapati Daksha was so named because he was very expert in begetting children. The word Daksha means expert. First he begot 10,000 children in the womb of his wife, and then the children were lost. When they returned home back to Godhead, he begot another set of children, known as the Savalashvas. Prajapati Daksha was very expert in begetting children, and Narada Muni is very expert in delivering all the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, the materialistic experts do not agree with the spiritual expert, Narada Muni. But this does not mean that Narada Muni will give up his engagement of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Text 25. In accordance with their father's order to beget children, the second group of sons also went to Narayana Saras, the same place where their brothers had previously attained perfection by following the instructions of Narada. Undertaking great vows of austerity, the Savalashvas remained at that holy place. Purport. Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons to the same place where his previous sons had attained perfection. He did not hesitate to send his second group of sons to the same place, although they too might become victims of Narada's instructions. According to the Vedic culture, one should be trained in spiritual understanding as a brahmachari before entering household life to beget children. This is the Vedic system. Thus, Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons for cultural improvement, despite the risk that because of the instructions of Narada, they might become as intelligent as their older brothers. As a dutiful father, he might he did not hesitate to allow his sons to receive cultural instructions concerning the perfection of life. He depended upon them to choose whether to return home, back to Godhead, or to rot in this material world in various species of life. In all circumstances, the duty of the father is to give cultural education to his sons, who must later decide which way to go. Responsible fathers should not hinder their sons who are making cultural advancement in association with the Krishna consciousness movement. This is not a father's duty. The duty of a father is to give his son complete freedom to make his choice after becoming spiritually advanced by following the instructions of the spiritual master. Text 26. At Narayana Saras, the second group of sons performed penances in the same way as the first. They bathed in the holy water, and by its touch, all the dirty material desires in their hearts were cleansed away. They murmured mantras beginning with Omkara and underwent a severe course of austerities. Purport. Every Vedic mantra is called Brahma because each mantra is preceded by the Brahmakshara, Om or Omkara. For example, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:8, Pranavat Sarvavedeshu. In all the Vedic mantras, I am represented by Pranava or Omkara. Thus, chanting the Vedic mantras beginning with Omkara is directly chanting of Krishna's names. There is no difference. Whether one chants Omkara or addresses the Lord as Krishna, the meaning is the same. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that in this age one chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Although there is no difference between Hare Krishna and the Vedic mantras beginning with Omkara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the leader of the spiritual movement for this age, has recommended that one chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 27 and 28. For a few months, the sons of Prajapati Daksha drank only water and ate only air. Thus, undergoing great austerities, they recited this mantra: Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always situated in his transcendental abode. Since he is the Supreme Person, Paramahamsa, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. Purport. From these verses, it is apparent that the chanting of the Mahamantra, or the Vedic mantras, must be accompanied by severe austerities. In Kali Yuga, people cannot undergo severe austerities, like those mentioned herein, drinking only water and eating only air for many months. One cannot imitate such a process, but at least one must undergo some austerity by giving up 4 unwanted principles, namely illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. Anyone can easily practice this tapasya, and then the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra will be effective without delay. One should not give up the process of austerity. If possible, one should bathe in the waters of the Ganges or Yamuna, or in the absence of the Ganges and Yamuna, one may bathe in the water of the sea. This is an item of austerity. Our Krishna consciousness movement has therefore established 2 very large centers, one in Vrindavan and another in Mayapur, Navadvip. There one may bathe in the Ganges or Yamuna, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus become perfect and return home, back to Godhead. Text 29. O King Parikshit, Narada Muni approached these sons of Prajapati Daksha, who were engaged in tapasya to beget children, and spoke enigmatic words to them, just as he had spoken to their elder brothers. Text 30. O sons of Daksha, please hear my words of instruction attentively. You are all very affectionate to your elder brothers, the Haryashvas. Therefore, you should follow their path. Purport. Narada Muni encouraged Prajapati Daksha's second group of sons by awakening their natural affinity for their brothers. He urged them to follow their older brothers if they were at all affectionate toward them. Family affection is very strong, and therefore Narada Muni followed this tactic of reminding them of their family relationship with the Haryashvas. Generally, the word Nigama refers to the Vedas, but here Nigama refers to the instructions contained in the Vedas. Srimad-Bhagavatam says, Nigama kalpa taror galitam palam. The Vedic instructions are like a tree, of which Srimad-Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit. Narada Muni is engaged in distributing this fruit, and therefore he instructed Vyasadeva to write this Mahapurana, Srimad-Bhagavatam, for the benefit of ignorant human society. Anarto pashamam sakshad bhakti yogam athok sajay lokasya janato bidbangs chakre sat vatasangitam. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. Bhagavatam 1.7.6. People are suffering because of ignorance and are following a wrong path for happiness. This is called anartha. These material activities will never make them happy, and therefore Narada instructed Vyasadeva to record the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva actually followed Narada and did this. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme instruction of the Vedas. Galitam palam. The ripened fruit of the Vedas is Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 31. A brother, aware of the principles of religion, follows in the footsteps of his elder brothers. Because of being highly educated and elevated, such a pious brother gets the opportunity to associate and enjoy with demigods like the Maruts, who are all affectionate to their brothers. Purport. According to their belief in various material relationships, people are promoted to various planets. Here it is said that one who is very faithful to his brothers should follow a path similar to theirs and get the opportunity for promotion to Marutloka. Narada Muni advised Prajapati Daksha's second group of sons to follow their elder brothers and be promoted to the spiritual world. Text 32. Shukadev Goswami continued, O best of the advanced Aryans, after saying this much to the sons of Prajapati Daksha, Narada Muni, whose merciful glance never goes in vain, left as he had planned. The sons of Daksha followed their elder brothers. Not attempting to produce children, they engaged themselves in Krishna consciousness. Text 33. The Savalashas took to the correct path, which is obtainable by a mode of life meant to achieve devotional service, or the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like knights that have gone to the west, they have not returned, even until now. Text 34. At this time, Prajapati Daksha observed many inauspicious signs, and he heard from various sources that his second group of sons, the Savalashvas, had followed the path of their elder brothers in accordance with the instructions of Narada. 35. When he heard that the Savalashvas had also left this world to engage in devotional service, Daksha was angry at Narada, and he almost fainted due to lamentation. When Daksha met Narada, Daksha's lips began trembling in anger, and he spoke as follows. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Narada Muni had delivered the entire family of Swayambhuva Manu, beginning with Priyavrata and Uttanapad. He had delivered Uttanapad's son Dhruva, and had even delivered Prachinavari, who was engaged in fruitive activities. Nevertheless, he could not deliver Prajapati, Daksha. Daksha saw Narada before him because Narada had personally come to deliver him. Narada Muni took the opportunity to approach Prajapati Daksha in his bereavement, because the time of bereavement is a suitable time for appreciating Bhakti Yoga. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:16, 4 kinds of men: Artha, one who is in distress, who is distressed; Artharti, one who is in need of money; Jigyasu, one who is inquisitive; and Jnani, a person in knowledge, try to understand devotional service. Prajapati Daksha was in great distress because of the loss of his sons, and therefore Narada took the opportunity to instruct him regarding liberation from material bondage. Text 36. Prajapati Daksha said, "Alas, Narada Muni, you wear the dress of a saintly person, but you are not actually a saint. Indeed, although I am now in Grihastha life, I am a saintly person. By showing my sons the path of renunciation, you have done me an abominable injustice." Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Sanyasira alpa chidra sarva lokagaya." C.C. Madhya 12:51. In society one will find many sannyasis, vanaprasthas, grihastas, and brahmacharis, but if all of them properly live in accordance with their duties, they are understood to be sadhus. Prajapati Daksha was certainly a sadhu because he had executed great austerities, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, had appeared before him. Nevertheless, he had a fault-finding mentality. He improperly thought Narada Muni to be asadhu, or non-saintly, because Narada had foiled his intentions. Desiring to train his sons to become grihastas, fully equipped with knowledge, Daksha had sent them to execute austerities by Narayana Saras. Narada Muni, however, taking advantage of their highly elevated position in austerity, instructed them to become Vaishnavas in the renounced order. This is the duty of Narada Muni and his followers. They must show everyone the path of renouncing this material world and returning home, back to Godhead. Prajapati Daksha, however, could not see the exaltedness of the duties Narada Muni performed in relation to his sons. Unable to appreciate Narada Muni's behavior, Daksha accused Narada of being asadhu. The words bhikshur, marga, the path of the renounced order, are very significant in this regard. A sannyasi is called Tridanda Bhikshu because his duty is to beg alms from the homes of grihastas and to give the grihastas spiritual instructions. A sannyasi is allowed to beg from door to door, but a grihasta cannot do so. Grihastas may earn their living according to the 4 divisions of spiritual life. A brahmana grihasta may earn his livelihood by becoming a learned scholar and teaching people in general how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He may also assume the duty of worship himself. Therefore it is said that only brahmanas may engage in deity worship, and may accept as prasad whatever people offer the deity. Although a brahmana may sometimes accept charity, it is not for his personal maintenance, but for the worship of the deity. Thus a brahmana does not stock anything for his future use. Similarly, kshatriyas may collect taxes from the citizens, and they must also protect the citizens enforce rules and regulations, and maintain law and order. Vaishyas should earn their livelihood through agriculture and cow protection, and Shudras should maintain their livelihood by serving the 3 higher classes. Unless one becomes a Brahmana, one cannot take sannyas. Sannyasis and brahmacharis may beg alms door to door, but a grihastha cannot. Prajapati Daksha condemned Narada Muni because Narada, a brahmachari who could beg door to door, had made sannyasis of Daksha's sons who were being trained to be grihasthas. Daksha was extremely angry at Narada because he thought that Narada had done him a great injustice. According to Daksha's opinion, Narada Muni had misled Daksha's inexperienced sons, Arbakanam. Daksha regarded his sons as innocent boys who had become misled when Narada showed them the renounced order of life. Because of all these considerations, Prajapati Daksha charged that Narada Muni was asadhu, and he should not have adopted the dress of a sadhu. Sometimes a saintly person is misunderstood by grihasthas, especially when he instructs their young sons to accept Krishna consciousness. Generally, a grihastha thinks that unless one enters grihastha life, he cannot properly enter the renounced order. If a young man immediately adopts the path of renounced order in accordance with the instructions of Narada or a member of his disciplic succession, his parents become very angry. This same phenomenon is occurring in our Krishna consciousness movement because we are instructing all the young boys in the Western countries to follow the path of renunciation. We allow grihastha life, but a grihastha also follows the path of renunciation. Even a grihastha has to give up so many bad habits that his parents think his life has been practically destroyed. We allow no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. And consequently, the parents wonder how, if there are so many no's, one's life can be positive. In the Western countries especially, these 4 prohibited activities practically constitute the life and soul of the modern population. Therefore, parents sometimes dislike our movement. Just as Prajapati Daksha disliked the activities of Narada and accused Narada of dishonesty. Nevertheless, although parents may be angry at us, we must perform our duty without hesitation, because we are in the disciplic succession from Narada Muni. Narada Muni ki jai. People addicted to householder life wonder how one can give up the enjoyment of grihastha life, which is a concession for sex enjoyment, simply to become a mendicant in Krishna consciousness. They do not know that the householder's concession for sex life cannot be regulated unless one accepts the life of a mendicant. The Vedic civilization therefore enjoins that at the end of one's 50th year, one must give up household life. This is compulsory. However, because modern civilization is misled, householders want to remain in family life until death, and therefore they are suffering. In such cases, the disciples of Narada Muni advise all the members of the younger generation to join the Krishna consciousness movement immediately. There is nothing wrong in this. Text 37. Prajapati Daksha said, "My sons were not at all freed from their 3 debts. Indeed, they did not properly consider their obligations. O Narada Muni, O personality of sinful action, you have obstructed their progress toward good fortune in this world and the next, because they are still indebted to the saintly persons, the demigods, and their father." Purport. As soon as a Brahmana takes birth, he assumes 3 kinds of debts. Debts to great saints, debts to the demigods, and debts to his father. The son of a Brahmana must undergo celibacy, brahmacharya, to clear his debts to the saintly persons. He must perform ritualistic ceremonies to clear his debts to the demigods, and he must beget children to become free from the debts to his father. Prajapati Daksha argued that although the renounced order is recommended for liberation, one cannot attain liberation unless one fulfills his obligations to the demigods, the saints, and his father. Since Narada Muni's since Daksha's sons had not liberated themselves from these three debts, how could Narada Muni have led them to the renounced order of life? Apparently, Prajapati Daksha did not know the final decision of the Shastras. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5.41, as stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5.41, Divarshit bhutapta nrinam pitrinam nakinkado nayam rini charajan sarvatmana yak sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihrityakartam. Everyone is indebted to the demigods, to living entities in general, to his family, to the pitas, and so on. But if one fully surrenders to Krishna, Mukunda, who can give one liberation, even if one performs no yajnas, one is freed from all debts. Even if one does not repay his debts, he is freed from all debts if he renounces the material world for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose lotus feet are the shelter of everyone. This is the verdict of the Shastra. Therefore, Narada Muni was completely right in instructing the sons of Prajapati Daksha to renounce this material world immediately and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unfortunately, Prajapati Daksha, the father of the Hayashvas and Savalashvas, did not understand the great service rendered by Narada Muni. Daksha therefore addressed him as Papa, the personality of sinful activities, and a sadhu, a non-saintly person. Since Narada Muni was a great saint and Vaishnava, he tolerated all such accusations from Prajapati Daksha. He merely performed his duty as a Vaishnava by delivering all the sons of Prajapati Daksha, enabling them to return home, back to Godhead. Text 38. You know who? Huh?
The devotee next to me.
Ajahn?
He's looking after the bed for Vitatis.
But he's not coming until Thursday. He told me Thursday.
He's fixing the room.
Oh, he's fixing the room. Acha. That was Parampara? Acha. Dutiful disciples. Doing his duty to his Guru Maharaj. Very pleasing. Translation. Prajapati Daksha continued. Thus committing violence against other living entities and yet claiming to be an associate of Lord Vishnu, you are defaming the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You needlessly created a mentality of renunciation in innocent boys, and therefore you are shameless and devoid of compassion. How could you travel with the personal associates of the Supreme Lord? Purport. The mentality of Prajapati Daksha still continues even today. When young boys join the Krishna consciousness movement, their fathers and so-called guardians are very angry at the propounder of the Krishna consciousness movement because they think that their sons have been unnecessarily induced to deprive themselves of the material enjoyments of eating, drinking, and merrymaking. Little do they know how much we take prasad and dance and chant and merry-make. Karmis, fruity workers, think that one should fully enjoy his present life in this material world and also perform some pious activities to be promoted to the higher planetary systems for further enjoyment in the next life. A yogi, however, especially a bhakti yogi, is callous to the opinions of this material world. He is not interested in traveling to the higher planetary systems of the demigods to enjoy a long life in an advanced material civilization. As stated by Prabodhananda Saraswati, Kaival yam narakar ete tridashapur akasha pushpayate. For a devotee, merging into the Brahmana existence is hellish, and life in the higher planetary systems of the demigods is a will-o'-the-wisp, a phantasmagoria with no real existence at all. A pure devotee is not interested in yogic perfection, travel to higher planetary systems, or oneness with Brahman. He is interested only in rendering service to the personality of Godhead. Since Prajapati Daksa was a karmi, he could not appreciate the great service Narada Muni had rendered his 11,000 sons. Instead, he accused Narada Muni of being sinful and charged that because Narada Muni was associated with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord would also be defamed. Whoa! Thus Daksha criticized that Narada Muni was an offender to the Lord, although he was known as an associate of the Lord. Text 39. All the devotees of the Lord, but you, are very kind to the conditioned souls and are eager to benefit others. Although you wear the dress of a devotee, you create enmity with people who are not your enemies, or you break friendship and create enmity between friends. Are you not ashamed of posing as a devotee while performing these abominable actions? Purport. Such are the criticisms that must be borne by the servants of Narada Muni in the disciplic succession. Through the Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to train young people to become devotees and return home back to Godhead by following rigid, regulated principles. But our service is appreciated neither in India nor abroad in the Western countries because we are endeavoring to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. In India, the caste brahmanas have become enemies of the Krishna consciousness movement because we elevate foreigners who are supposed to be mlechas and yavanas to the position of brahmanas. We train them in austerities and penances and recognize them as brahmanas by awarding them sacred threads. Thus, the caste brahmanas of India are very displeased by our activities in the Western world. In the West also, the parents of the young people who join this movement also have become enemies. We have no business creating enemies, but the process is such that non-devotees will always be inimical toward us. Nevertheless, as stated in the Shastras, a devotee should be both tolerant and merciful. I'll read that again. Nevertheless, as stated in the Shastras, we'll start here. We have no business creating enemies, but the process is such that non-devotees will always be inimical toward us. Nevertheless, as stated in the Shastras, a devotee should be both tolerant and merciful. Devotees engaged in preaching should be prepared to be accused by ignorant persons, and yet they must be very merciful to the fallen, conditioned souls. If one can execute his duty in the disciplic succession of Narada Muni, his service will surely be recognized. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:68 and 69, Ya idam padamam guyam yad bhakte shabidasyati bhaktim mai padam kritva mam ebaishat yasam shayaha nachatasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakritamaha babita nachame tasmat anyak priyataro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Let us continue preaching the message of Lord Krishna and not be afraid of enemies. Our only duty is to satisfy the Lord by this preaching, which will be accepted as service by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna. We must sincerely serve the Lord and not be deterred by so-called enemies. In this verse, the word sarida gnam, a breaker of friendship, is used. Because Narada Muni and the members of his disciplic succession disrupt friendships and family life, they are sometimes accused of being sarida gnam, creators of enmity between relatives. Actually, such devotees are friends of every living entity, suridam, sarvabhutanam. But they are misunderstood to be enemies. Preaching can be difficult. Preaching can be a difficult, thankless task, but a preacher must follow the orders of the Supreme Lord and be unafraid of materialistic persons. Text 40. Prajapati Daksha continued, if you think that simply awakening the sense of renunciation will detach one from the material world, I must say that unless full knowledge is awakened, simply changing dresses, as you have done, cannot possibly bring detachment. Purport. Prajapati Daksha was correct in stating that changing one's dress cannot detach one from this material world. The sannyasis of Kali Yuga, who change their robes from white to saffron and then think they can do whatever they like, are more abominable than materialistic grihastas. This is not recommended anywhere. Prajapati Daksha was right in pointing out this defect, but he did not know that Narada Muni had aroused the spirit of renunciation in the Haryashvas and Savalashvas through full knowledge. Such enlightened renunciation is desirable. One should enter the renounced order with full knowledge, jnana, vairagya. For the perfection of life is possible for one who renounces this material world in that way. This elevated stage can be reached very easily, as supported by the statements of Srimad-Bhagavatam 127. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Priyojitaha Jana Yasha Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. If one seriously engages in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, jnana and vairagya are automatically manifest in one's person. There is no doubt of this. Prajapati Daksha's accusation that Narada had not actually elevated his sons to the platform of knowledge was not factual. All the sons of Prajapati Daksha had first been raised to the platform of Gyan and had then automatically renounced this world. In summary, unless one's knowledge is awakened, renunciation cannot take place, for without elevated knowledge, one cannot give up attachment for material enjoyment. Text 41. Material enjoyment is indeed the cause of all unhappiness, but one cannot give it up unless one has personally experienced how much suffering it is. Therefore, one should be allowed to remain in so-called material enjoyment while simultaneously advancing in knowledge to experience the misery of this false material happiness. Then, without help from others, one will find material enjoyment distasteful. Those whose minds are changed by others do not become as renounced as those who have personal experience. Purport. It is said that unless a woman becomes pregnant, she cannot understand the trouble of giving birth to a child. Bandhya ki bujibe pasava vedana The word banya means a sterile woman. Such a woman cannot give birth to a child. How then can she perceive the pain of delivery? According to the philosophy of Prajapati Daksha, a woman should first become pregnant and then experience the pain of childbirth. Then, if she is intelligent, she will not want to be pregnant again. Actually, however, this is not a fact. Sex enjoyment is so strong that a woman becomes pregnant and suffers at the time of childbirth, but she becomes pregnant again, despite her experience. According to Daksha's philosophy, one should become implicated in material enjoyment so that after experiencing the distress of such enjoyment, one will automatically renounce. Material nature, however, is so strong that although a man suffers at every step, material nature, however, is so strong that although a man suffers at every step, he will not cease his attempts to enjoy. Tripyanti, neha, kripana, bahodukha bhajaha. Under the circumstances, unless one gets the association of a devotee like Narada Muni or his servant in the disciplic succession, one's dormant spirit of renunciation cannot be awakened. It is not a fact that because material enjoyment involves so many painful conditions, one will automatically become detached. One needs the blessings of a devotee like Narada Muni. Then one can renounce his attachment for the material world. The young boys and girls of the Krishna consciousness movement have given up the spirit of material enjoyment not because of practice, but by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his servants. Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Text 42. Although I live in household life with my wife and children, I honestly follow the Vedic injunctions by engaging in fruitive activities to enjoy life without sinful reactions. I have performed all kinds of yagyas, including the Deva Yagya, Rishi Yagya, Pitri Yagya, and Nri Yagya. Because these yagyas are called vratas, vows, I am known as a Griya Vrata. Unfortunately, you have given me great displeasure by misguiding my sons for no reason to the path of renunciation. This can be tolerated once. Purport. Prajapati Daksha wanted to prove that he had been most tolerant in not having said anything when Narada Muni, for no reason, induced his 10,000 innocent sons to adopt the path of renunciation. Sometimes householders are accused of being Griyamedis, for Griyamedis are satisfied with family life without spiritual advancement. Grihastas, however, are different, because although Grihastas live in householder life with their wives and children, they are eager for spiritual advancement. Wanting to prove that they had been magnanimous to Narada Muni, Prajapati Daksha stressed that when Narada had misled his first sons, Daksha had taken no action. He had been kind and tolerant. He was aggrieved, however, because Narada Muni had misled him. He wanted to prove that Narada Muni, although dressed like a sadhu, was not actually a sadhu. He himself, although a householder, was a greater sadhu than Narada Muni. Oops. Text 43. You have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore you are a rascal who does not know how to behave toward others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. What a blessing. Purport. Because Prajapati Daksha was a Grihamedi who wanted to remain in household life, he thought that if Narada Muni could not remain in one place but had to travel all over the world, that would be a great punishment for him. Actually, however, such a punishment is a boon for a preacher. A preacher is known as Paribrajak Acharya, an Acharya or teacher who always travels for the benefit of human society. Prajapati Daksha cursed Narada Muni by saying that although he had the facility to travel all over the universe, he would never be able to stay in one place. In the Parampara system from Narada Muni, I have also been cursed. Although I have many centers that would be suitable places for residence, I cannot stay anywhere, for I have been cursed by the parents of my young disciples. Since the Krishna consciousness movement was started, I have traveled all over the world 2 or 3 times a year, and although I am provided comfortable places to stay wherever I go, I cannot stay anywhere for more than 3 days or a week. I do not mind this curse by the parents of my disciples, but now it is necessary that I stay in one place to finish another task, the translation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And I'm editing, or the recording of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad-Bhagavatam. Haribol. If my young disciples, especially those who have taken sannyas, take charge of traveling all over the world, it may be possible for me to transfer the curse of the parents to these young preachers. Then I may sit down conveniently in one place for the work of translation. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Huh? Only one more in the chapter? Huh? One more verse. Okay. Text 44. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued. My dear king, since Narada Muni is an approved saintly person, when cursed by Prajapati Daksha, he replied, Tad Bhadam. Yes, what you have said is good. I accept this curse. He could have cursed Prajapati Daksha in return, but because he is a tolerant and merciful sadhu, he took no action. Purport. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 3.25.21, Titikshava karunika suridak sarvadehinam ajata shatrabak shantak saravak sarabhushanaha. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Because Narada Muni is the most elevated of sadhus, devotees, to deliver Prajapati Daksha, he silently tolerated the curse. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught this principle to all his devotees. Trinadapi sunichena, torodapi sahishtuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sada harihi. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Following the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one who preaches the glories all over the world or all over the universe should be humbler than grass and more tolerant than a tree, because a preacher cannot live an easygoing life. Indeed, a preacher must face many impediments. Not only is he sometimes cursed, but sometimes he must also suffer personal injury. For example, when Nityananda Prabhu went to preach Krishna consciousness to the 2 roguish brothers, Jagai and Madai, they injured him and made his head bleed. But nevertheless, he tolerantly delivered the 2 rogues, who became perfect Vaishnavas. This is the duty of a preacher. Lord Jesus Christ even tolerated crucifixion. Therefore the curse against Narada was not very astonishing, and he had tolerated it. Now, it may be asked, why Narada Muni stayed in the presence of Prajapati Daksha and tolerated all his accusations and curses? Was that for Daksha's deliverance? The answer is yes. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says that after being insulted by Prajapati Daksha, Narada Muni should have left immediately, but he purposely stayed to hear all Daksha's strong words so that Daksha might be relieved of his anger. Prajapati Daksha was not an ordinary man. He had accumulated the results of many pious activities. Therefore Narada Muni expected that after delivering his curse, Daksha, satisfied and freed from anger, would repent his misbehavior and thus get a chance to become a Vaishnava and be delivered. When Jagai and Madai offended Lord Nityananda stood tolerantly, and therefore both brothers fell at his lotus feet and repented. Consequently, they later became perfect Vaishnavas. Thus in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 5th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Narada Muni, cursed by Prajapati Daksa. Okay, we come to our favorite time. Well, favorite time is to hear, but then also another favorite time is called our open mic time. We have a mic and we pass it around, and anybody who wants to reflect on something they heard in the reading that they particularly liked or particularly didn't like, whatever is in your pleasure, or want to discuss it more, or wants to inquire, feel free. I've got 10 minutes. Yes?
Okay, I have one reflection and one question. First, my reflection. Well, I have two reflections and one question. My first thing is I was appreciating how Prabhupada is always reading my mind. As we were reading, we stumbled on one part where it said that basically bogus sannyasis change their cloth from white to orange and then think they can do whatever they want. Immediately I thought of that time that one devotee told me that ISKCON gurus were not valid, and I could see how they would take that sentence and twist it and make it that way. So I was that was in the back of my mind. And then we later read that Prabhupada said that I can, one day sit and translate if my disciples can become sannyasis and take this all over the world. So I really appreciated that.
Yes.
He
also told us that, because I was there, I'll explain to you something more. He also said to us that if you give me your youth and distribute this Krishna consciousness in your youth, I bless you that you can stay in one place when you get old and relish Krishna consciousness. I mean, I was really touched by Bhakti Churu Maharaj. He came, remember? He was here only for a day and a half? About 1 million people came to see him. And I was supposed to spend some time with him because we know each other very well and we've known each other for a long time. I was there in Mayapur when he joined, and we have a very affectionate relationship. We were both very close to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and I was there with him when Prabhupada left also. So he came into my room, and I only got to be with him for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes. That's all the time he had. So he came and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I explained, the morning recording and the evening reading like this. And in the meantime, chanting 32 rounds and talking to people and, having a good time. And he said, yes. He said, with all the service you've done in all those years, you deserve to be in samadhi. So I was like, I was very happy, although I'm not in samadhi, not really, because I'm not completely absorbed, but the fact that he said that was very nice, friendly and very nice. Then?
And, this is my question. So today we read, materialistic father and mother want to engage their sons in begetting children, striving for improved economic conditions, and rotting in materialistic life. They are not unhappy when their children become spoiled, useless citizens, but they lament when they join the Krishna consciousness movement to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Whenever we read this, first thing I thought is I want to send this to my mom, but the second thing that I thought is if I send it to her, she will think, well, devotees do the same thing. They have kids, and they have houses, and they go to work, and da-da-da-da-da. So what would my rebuttal to be to that? That their devotees are doing.
Well, it's already in the purport. We read the purport. There's a difference between a Grihamaiti and a Grihastha. Grihastha, has children, but they do so in order to train them to be devotees and to teach them to be liberated. But Daksha was different. He wanted to teach them to enjoy and then have more children in life after life after life after life, perpetuate. But the Grihamaiti is also a Grihastha, but therefore Prabhupada said that the real Grihastha is also in renunciation. The real Grihastha is actually a yajna, it's a vrat, it's a austerity. Prabhupada used to joke with us, if you get married, it's like, living in the icebox on a fast day. Anyway, it's a funny way of saying it, but it's not easy to be a real Grihastha, actually. It's a very exalted position. And therefore Daksha, he was pious, and some of the things he said were true, but at the end of the day, because he didn't realize just how exalted Narada Muni was, he started to blaspheme him, and that was his fall down, actually. But Narada Muni, just see how he responded. He didn't, curse him back and then go away. He just stood there and took it. Just like Ambarish Maharaj stood there and took it from Durvasa Muni, and he just stood there and kept praying to be forgiven for his offense, whatever he thought that Durvasa Muni thought was his offense, which he made no offense. And then he finally had to come back, and Vishnu told him, I can't give you shelter, you just offended a pure devotee of mine. You have to go back to him and get his blessings. And then, of course, when he did, Ambarish immediately not only forgave him, he begged forgiveness for him for whatever offense he may have committed to him. This is the real Vaishnava. This is the real Vaishnava, who's a friend of everyone. So that person, that kind of person, as we've read, is sometimes blasphemed by materialistic persons who are suspicious of anything other than material enjoyment. They've never experienced spiritual enjoyment, so therefore all they think about is material enjoyment, and that's all they know. And therefore, and they don't realize, they don't think about, pious ones may think about the next life and try to become better or to go to a higher planet, but then they don't know that just perpetuates their birth and death again and again. And so it's not actually good, it's actually violent. So what can you say to your mother except that, hey, come and join. Or, bless me so that I can bless you, or whatever.
She says she's happy that I met you.
Really?
My mother, yeah.
Can we meet?
She wants to.
Okay, good.
Okay, Vilas Manjari Dasi has a question.
Hare Bo Vilas Manjari, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. In text 38, purport, the Vedic civilization enjoins that at the end of one's 50th year, one must give up household life. This is compulsory. Could you speak a little about how we should apply this instruction?
We shouldn't apply it. We shouldn't apply it mechanically. A man shouldn't say he's got his watch on, and when it comes, okay, 6, 5. Okay, I'm 50. That's it. See you later. Not like that. It's a general description that says that once one comes to the point where his material engagements are such that he has sons that can take over the business, take over the protection of his elderly members of society, his family, and he can go and become renounced himself, then we should do that. I mean, there's a perverted reflection of it already. People retire; they have an age. Even in America, you can't You have to. Well, now they're forcing people to work more and longer and longer and longer because they're becoming more and more materialistic. But in general, after a person gets to a certain age, I think, and what it is in America, 70 or 65? 65.
62, you can get some benefits also. If you work longer, you get more benefits.
Yeah, anyway, they're materialistic. But the general idea is, after a certain age, you stop working like an ass, and you get your Winnebago, and you go to, Grand Tetons or, whatever, whatever park, and, park it there, and twiddle your thumbs. Or just look at the scenery, But the principle of retiring, it's a reflection, it's a perverted reflection, but it's a tendency, it's natural. You can only work so long. And if you keep working and working and working, the reason the age is 50 there is because if you can do it reasonably young so that you have some energy left, then you'll be able to actually go for it. You'll be able to actually go for spiritual advancement. You'll have some energy left to cultivate spiritual life. And remember, because you're supposed to have been taught when you're young in the Vedic culture, just like Ajamil. We just heard about Ajamil. Of course, he got forced into a very bad situation because of his sinful life, but he remembered the instructions of his spiritual master when he was young as a brahmachari and a brahmana, and therefore he had enough sense to name his son Narayana, and he remembered to a certain extent, and therefore he was able to chant the name of Narayana at the end and go back to Godhead by the grace of the Vishnu Dutas. So the point is that the Christian consciousness is just all auspicious. It doesn't make any difference what, ashram you're in, what varna you're in. Sway karmanya bridatat. I can't remember the rest of the Sanskrit, but it means that what you can do your duty, whatever it is, and for the pleasure of Krishna, and become perfect at it. You don't have to be a sannyasi, or have to be a grahasta, or have to be a brahmachari. You can get perfection in any position. That was Lord Chaitanya's mercy. What was that verse? Stana stitat shrutigatam tan mano bir. I'm leaving out one word. Anyway, it means that stay where you are, don't move, don't change anything, but just hear seriously from the proper source without speculating about the absolute truth. That's the process. I mean, what we're doing every day now here is the process. And we're feeling it. Anyway, Hare Krishna. You're all feeling it. I can feel it. Yes.
Rati Manjari says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. You said that most people do not know about spiritual enjoyment, and even when they aspire for a better life, they want to go to heaven, which is temporary. So it is actually violence. Many of these people are Christians. They speak of going to heaven, but it seems to me that they are after going to heavenly planets. Would you please comment on this?
Well, they don't think that they're going to heavenly planets. They think that they're going to the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with what they're thinking. But the problem is they're not doing the things that they need to do to actually go there. I mean, Prabhupada, many times he was challenged on this point, and he would test his disciples in morning walks and room conversations many times. And he would say, "What's the difference? They say they love God. They go to church. They sing prayers. They sing hymns. They do prayers. So what's the difference?" And then they would, of course, the devotees would say so many things. But when it came right down to it, the reason he accepted was that they're not following their teacher. They're killing, they're fornicating, they're doing all kinds of, they're stealing, coveting other people's wives, other people's property, greedy, enjoying mammon. All the things that Jesus said to do, they're not doing. They're just declaring themselves out of sentiment to be followers, but they're not following. That's the difference. I mean, Prabhupada used to say, we're not trying to convert somebody from one thing to another. You know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted Jesus Christ as a Shakti Vishavatar of Krishna. But he came in a certain time, certain circumstance. The people around him were of a certain level or capacity of hearing certain things, and that's what he gave them, what they could hear. And they couldn't hear more, and he said it himself. So Prabhupada, he would, rather than, if the person was very averse and very attached to his prayer or his religion, then Prabhupada would encourage them, stay in that religion, but follow it. And if they do that, then they would gradually, and then he would challenge them. So who is God? You say, know God and love God. So how can you love God if you don't know Him? So who is He? Test, push. They don't know who He is. And if you keep scratching deep enough, many of them are contaminated by Mayavad philosophy, just as the Hindus are also contaminated by impersonalism and Mayavad philosophy. They don't have a personal conception. Therefore, they can't feel responsible to anyone. They can't feel real devotion, real love, because real love means you want to please the person you love, and you want to satisfy their senses, as we talked about the other day in the question and answer session.
Rati asks, so where do they go? Does that depend on the individual?
Yes.
I have one question while we're speaking about Christianity. The other day I read that it says in the Bible that Jesus said you should not worship, because actually it was like a question and answer thing at a college, and one man was preaching very heavily Christian philosophy, and one girl said that she had visited Nepal and she had seen the deities and she saw how devout people were, and then he gave a Bible verse how it says, Jesus says that don't worship any idols, and basically they carve wooden figures and worship them and don't do this. So what would you say when a Christian person brings that up?
What is the root cause of idol? What is the root meaning of idol? Where does the word idol come from? What does it mean? That's what you say to a person who's challenging you. Do you know what that word means? Like sometimes they would challenge Prabhupada about God, then he said, so what is your idea of God? Do you know who God is? And most people can't say. They don't really know. So the word idol comes from the word idea. Idol means you manufacture an idea. The word came from actually when Moses came down the mountain, the followers, before he came down with his tablet of the Ten Commandments, they got tired of I don't know, I don't want to speculate. They got impatient and they started to manufacture a way to worship. And they had carved a calf or something, golden, and then they were circumambulating them and worshiping it and all these things. And he came down and he chastised them. And he said, Jesus just told me, not to make ideas and worship ideas, but the idol, the deity is described in the Shastras. The forms described, the process of worship is described, and anybody who does it properly gets uplifted and awakens their love for God. So that's not the same as idol worship. We're not making it up. I'm 10 minutes over my quota. Did you have something? I heard that you were speaking eloquently before I entered the room, and I don't want to hog the show.
does the Krishna conscious movement, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the story. I don't know if how you guys want to, but I see it like it was a story with Arjuna and Krishna coming and helping Arjuna. So do you guys see it as it's like that actually happened, or do you see it as something to kind of help you understand certain ideas of, or trying to get close to the idea of what God is, or so?
It's both.
Okay.
There's a train station in India called Kurukshetra.
Okay.
Kurukshetra has been a place where saintly persons get together to do pilgrimage activities and worship, and Dharma Kshetra, that's called the place of Dharma, place of religion, since time immemorial. If you go to India, you'll see Krishna's name everywhere. We shall go many places. Every place he went, there's shrines and there's, teachings, and there's. It's not stories. These are historical events. They're actually historical events, and these are the recorded words of God. The original Sanskrit that is given in the Bhagavad Gita as it is in the Bhagavatam. These are the original words, the original sound vibrations that were worshipped, just like it is said in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Well, these are the Vedas. This is Om-kara. It all comes from sound, from transcendental sound. Okay. So it's both actual events, and it's also teachings to explain, what God is, and who God is, and what it means, and what the material world is about. What's the purpose of it? Why things are the way they are. You can make a mathematical calculation to describe, why the sun and the planets don't just come into each other. Centrifugal and centrifugal force, they come the same, therefore they stay there. But why? Why do they stay there? You say, well, there's a big bang and all the chemicals and particles all came together by chance over a certain long period of time, and here we are. But is that really true? Were you there? Did you see that happen? Why is the sun a certain distance from the earth and stays there? For argument's sake you say that some explosion could happen, and then just everything happened. Have you ever noticed how every planet is a perfect sphere?
In harmony with...
Perfect sphere. You see the photos that they've taken with, they're all perfect spheres. Like they're like, how did that happen? It's all. In other words, it's actually mathematically impossible.
So, my other question is, so God, he, like in the Bhagavad Gita, is described as a man?
No, not a man.
No. Oh,
he has a human form.
Human form. So God is male and female.
Yes.
Both.
Yes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is male, and the Supreme Energy is female.
So these two energies, female and male.
No, energetic and energy.
Okay.
There's the energetic. All energy has a source. All energy has a source. It must.
So it's one energy.
It's one energetic source, and it's unlimited, variegated energy.
Is one energy manifesting as in everything?
Yes. But everything is at the same time different. It's one and different at the same time. God is the source of everything, and at the same time, he is aloof from everything as the source of everything. He's everything in the sense that his energies transmit or transform into everything, but at the same time he's the source of everything. In the spiritual world, there's a world where time does not exist and space does not exist, but all the forms are spiritual and eternal.
Eternal, like meaning infinite. No
Yes, eternal.
limit.
No past, no present, future. It's eternal existence. Full knowledge. If you think about it, first let me
Yes,
finish.
I'm sorry.
If you think about it, everyone wants to be happy. No one wants to be unhappy. They have different ways of looking for it. They become happy of different things, but the principle of being happy, everybody wants to be happy. Unless they're mad and deranged. And also they don't want to die. No one wants to die. That's why they're trying to make so many arrangements to increase the duration of life. Not only that, but everyone he wants to know. He wants to know things. That's why everybody wants to be educated. Everyone wants to know. That's how the internet came into existence, because of the desire of all the human beings on the planet to know. And therefore the internet was created by the material energy as in response to the desires of the living beings. And that's the way of the material energy. The material energy is created in a certain way in response to the desires of the living beings, who are the parts and parcels of the Supreme Living Being. He is the Supreme Father, and we are all His children, and therefore He presents things and gives things for us to maintain ourselves here in this material world. But in the spiritual world, we don't have to work like asses to maintain ourselves. We don't have to struggle in order to drag around a body that's inert. In the spiritual world, the soul and the body are the same. You don't have to drag around the body. You don't have to drag things around and manufacture them in order to serve God. Everything is conscious in the spiritual world, and everything and everyone wants to serve God. Therefore, everything is effortless and joyful.
So, God. Okay, so I'm trying to. So God is trying to find Himself?
No, He's not trying to find Himself. He wants us to come back to Him. Most of His...
So we are apart from God.
Yes. We're a part of God, but we're also entrapped in His separated energies. We're separated from Him
almost
by
like, say like the hairs on our...
Something like that. Like I'm recording my voice into this recording, right? And then if I play it back, even if I'm not in the room, it plays back like I'm in the room. That's my separated energy. If somebody's outside the door and listens, he might think I'm in the room, but I'm over there in my room.
So
but that energy could not exist unless I recorded it. Somebody else cannot record my energy. Only I can record my energy. But that is separated energy. It's separated from me and it's recorded on that device and then it's played back. So the material energy is the energy of Krishna that covers the conditioned soul, separates the conditioned souls from Himself, from Him. Just like the sun, this is an example, just an example. The sun is in one place in the sky. The sun shines down on the ocean and makes a cloud. And then the cloud covers us from seeing the sun. It's exactly like that. God's effulgence transforms into the material energy and covers some of the parts and parcels, some of His parts and parcels who want to be separate from Him, who want to try to live independently from Him, who want to be enjoyers separate from Him. So He gives the separated energy to fulfill that desire.
So this energy that created us, Krishna,
Well, we're not created, but the bodies and the material energy, the forms of the material energy are created. But we're not created. We're eternal. We never change. Just
Yes,
like
this body that
Yes.
that I'm carrying around.
yes, yes,
My intellect,
yes,
my thoughts.
yes.
So who is seeing who?
Now you're coming to it.
Who is seeing? Like who?
Yes,
is
that's the
truth?
soul. You see, the soul has a form, and the spiritual form has senses, and that spiritual form is covered by, just like you have your
the ego.
your underwear and your outerwear,
Yeah.
but you're inside. The underwear and the outerwear is us. So the soul is covered by subtle body and then a gross body.
So
The
this
subtle
is,
body is the body that you dream in at night.
So this is just an illusion that
Yes.
I'm walking around in the world and
Well, it's not
encountering-
it's not false, but it's temporary. It's illusory in the sense that it's temporary.
Okay, so I'm manifest right now. I'm here, and I know I'm gonna die, and I accepted that already. But
Well, you better do something about it then. We're afraid and we're confused when we don't know what's going to happen when we die. But we know what's going to happen when we die. Therefore, we're not afraid anymore. That's the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. A spiritually realized person and a materialist.
thank you, sir.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're welcome to come and stay with us anytime.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna need a couple more.
Of course.
It's a puzzle I see, and I got certain pieces of it, and I haven't gotten the whole picture.
Well, keep coming and asking questions, and when your intelligence is satisfied, then you'll know.
Yeah, I just.
The intelligence was created originally when this material world was created. The intelligence had certain functions and characteristics, purpose, and the first is doubt. The second is correct apprehension. The third is misapprehension. The fourth is memory. And the fifth is sleep. These are the characteristics of intelligence, the original characteristics of intelligence. So we all have a little piece of that intelligence inside of us. So if you're intelligence, then you will doubt. But that doubt is meant to be constructive, to bring you to the point of finding a source of knowledge that will satisfy your intelligence. If you find a source of knowledge that can answer your questions in a way that satisfies your intelligence, and you still doubt, that means you're a doubting Thomas, according to the Bible. And the doubting Thomas cannot be happy in this world or in the next. Agyas cha sharadanas cha sangshyatma vinashati nayam lokos tinaparo nasukam sangshyatmanaha. A person who does not have any faith, who is doubtful, doesn't have any truth that he has faith in, then he cannot have happiness in this life nor in the next life.
Is the purpose of all this? Is the purpose for all this me? Like, I was born, and
You're not going to capture any of this nectar, are you? You're just going to sit there and have a good time drawing your pictures. Good job. Do your duty
I'm
now.
sorry.
Do your duty. No, you can. I think it'll reach. Can you sit? Can you sit? You can sit. Be more comfortable.
Me, sir? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can sit in the chair. Does it reach?
Oh.
There you go.
Like, a lot of events happen in my life, and my father, all his doings, my family, I feel like am I bad? Is it wrong to say that I want to like separate myself from my family and the environment that I have? And
We just heard about it, didn't we? Daksha, his sons got the rare opportunity to meet a saint, a real saintly person, Narada Muni, the most saintly person in the universe, and he convinced them to leave the material world. It's not wrong to want to leave the material world. It's our spiritual destiny. It's the spiritual destiny of everyone. It is the goal of human life to search for the absolute truth, self-realization, to find out who you are, and then to go back to the spiritual world. That's the purpose of life, and especially of human life. So no, it's not wrong. But the material world is going to teach you that it's wrong, and therefore you're confused. But when you come into the association of a group of people who all feel that same way, then you won't feel confused anymore. And then when you find out that truth, and you live it, and you become satisfied with your intelligence, then you can share it.
okay, thank you, sir.
That's the goal of life. That's the way to satisfy God in such a way as He will give you the strength and the intelligence how to come back to Him.
One more question. Am I here to realize this knowledge and not come back, like in this state?
Correct.
And then I was kind of thinking about this, and I got depressed for a little bit, thinking like, wow, man, I'm not gonna come back and because there's some aspects of this world that I do love a lot, and then there's other aspects that are really terrible,
Well, the aspects that you love a lot, they're there in the spiritual world without the aspects that are miserable.
Okay.
So why not go to the spiritual world? Of course, right now we don't know about the spiritual world. We have to find out.
So after realizing this knowledge that these books have, will I be extinguished? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, you can't be extinguished. You're eternal.
Okay, so that's where I become fully with God.
Yes.
In its full force of
Yes.
energy.
Yes. If you leave this material world, if you leave your material body, thinking about God in love, then you are immediately transferred in your original spiritual form to the spiritual world. Just like you wake up from a dream.
Okay. So, is God dreaming this?
Yes.
Is He's feeling this?
He's dreaming it. This
What?
material world is God's
Oh,
dream.
But
The
is He...
material world is God's dream, and we are in that dream. But He wants us to come out of the dream and come back and play with Him in the awakened state. Just like when you're dreaming, you may say, oh, you may be chasing by a tiger, and you're going, oh, tiger, 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 and somebody's sitting next to you, and says, I don't see any tiger. What are you so afraid about?
So
Because one person's dreaming and the other person's not.
So when
But-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just kind of excited because I'm trying to
Go ahead.
grasp this thing right now that I'm following. So when I die, even if I don't become enlightened in this world, and if I die, does that mean that that's God waking up from my dream or a dream?
Why do you have long hair?
Because I'm too cheap to get a haircut.
Maybe you want long hair. Maybe you like long hair.
And then I don't shave because those razors are kind of
Yeah,
expensive
trouble.
too.
So you don't like the trouble, so you don't do it. So you want it, therefore you got it. You've got a body that allows you to do what you want to a certain extent.
I used to keep up with all
So the
this.
same thing happens when you leave the body. The mental state when you leave the body, that's where you go. What you're thinking of at the time of death is where you go. Just like the way you are now,
So-
that's the way you look. And if you decide to shave your head, you'll look different.
So is God also dreaming? Say like in right now
So
outside.
God's dreaming is not like our dreaming. God's dreaming is reality, and our dreaming is not reality.
So God is not dreaming.
No. Well, He is. But His dream is real, whereas our dream is temporary.
See, I'm gonna need some time to kind of think about
The
that.
scientists say that energy is conserved, and that's true. But the energy that is conserved is Krishna's energy. And that energy comes from God, and it reflects and amalgamates into the material energy, and all of the information content that's required to direct all the forms, and the world to become into existence, the material creation. That's all coming from His. Just like when a man and a woman unite, then there are emulsification to the two secretions, and the DNA and all of the information content that's required come into, and the soul is there, and then it creates the body. That's the process of creation, and the creation is the same in a universal sense, in which God is the Father who injects all of the souls into the material nature, or the womb of material nature, all at once.
So
And all of the different laws of nature and information content which is necessary to do that, to construct it, is all coming from the original supreme body of the Lord. That's the difference between His body and our body. His is unlimited.
You say God the Father,
Yes.
and which brings me back to the other question. What we were talking about. Why do we refer as Him as male?
Because He is male. But there's also a supreme female.
If
There's both a supreme male and a supreme female.
which is dominating?
They're both enjoying equally.
So it's a equal.
Yes, but one is controlled and one is controlling. That is the nature. Purusha and Prakriti. There's an original Purusha and an original Prakriti. But here in the material world, we're imitating. We're trying to
So
be...
I don't want to sound so is the male in the worldly sense it is the more powerful being than a female?
The soul is not male or female in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are male and female, but there's no conflict. In the material world, there's a conflict.
Only in the material world.
There's a conflict. But in the spiritual world, there's no conflict. Because there's one center. The reason why we have a conflict here, whether we're male or female or any other living being, is because we want to be in the center. We want to be the master. Whether we're male or whether we're female, we want to be the master, we want to be the controller, we want to be the enjoyer. But we are all actually the energy of Krishna, Prakriti. We are meant to be enjoyed by Krishna. But whether we're male or we're female in the material world, when we want to enjoy ourselves for ourselves, then we become Prakriti, we become Purusha. We think we want to become Purusha. That is the effect of the material energy.
So that's the illusion that comes.
That's the illusion.
So, am I? Okay, I'm looking at me. I'm not really this guy that was born. I'm making all this stuff. I mean, it's all made up, right? So I'm really just looking at. I'm not even me. Like, I'm not the male.
You don't know who you are. When a person dies, the body is laying in the bed, and the relative is lamenting, "Oh, my son is gone, or my father is gone, or my grandfather is gone." And we say, Why are you lamenting? He's all the parts of the body are there. No, he's gone. Means you haven't seen your father. What are you lamenting? So come with us and learn who you are, and stop being confused, and etc., etc. And right now I have to stop because I just went a whole bunch over my quota, and I have a phone call I was supposed to make at 8 o'clock, and I'm late. It was lovely. Thank you very much. Keep on inquiring, but when you find out an answer that answers your question, then accept it. That's called honesty. You need two qualities to become self-realized. You have to be sincere, you have to be honest, and you have to be free from envy. If you hear like that, then you will gradually be enlightened, and you will understand, and you will know who you are, you'll know what to do, you'll know what the material is, you'll know what the spiritual world is, and you know how to get there. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Everybody in cyberspace, everybody in the universe. Hare Krishna, thank you for being you. And we'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 again, same place, same station. Continue this voyage back to self-realization and the lotus feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.